Welcome to Seattle Sound Then and Now. I'm your host, Owen Wright. Welcome to the show. I'd like to introduce, you can't see him on screen, but my director, David Yama. David, thanks for making everything happen. We've got our guy, JP, on the board, and we are going to interview Mr. Matt Fox.
Thanks, Owen.
Yeah, buddy. Great to have you here on the show. How was your week?
It was a week. You know, I work for a living now, so, you know,
we all do.
I worked, and it was a week. It was pretty good.
Right on. So usually on the show, we tape on Sundays, and which is kind of convenient for our artists and for the crew, anywhere between 12 and 4 o'clock, just to give you people the heads up of what time we're kind of doing this in the afternoon. It's on a Sunday. We got Mariners. A lot of great stuff's coming up for later on. So we can barbecue and have some adult beverages.
That sounds like a good Sunday thing to do.
That's what we do
An
every
appropriate Sunday thing to do. Because we're in Seattle, and it stopped raining.
It stopped raining. It's still a little chilly out.
For now.
You know, how did we first meet?
So, Owen, we met, I believe it was in 1986 or thereabouts, when you were in Mistrust, and Bitter End was still mostly writing songs in a garage in Linwood. And I just started kind of going out to shows and stuff and sort of meeting people and going to parties. And I believe
House parties.
I believe we met at Randy Hansen's house in West Seattle. And you were very nice to me because you were kind of known around town and I was a little nobody. But then, yeah, you were in there and you had some sort of a Super Strat with a locking whammy. And I had acquired my Kramer Focus 6000, I think, and did not know how to use a whammy well. And you were very kind and gave me some useful tips on how to make stupid 80s whammy bar noises.
It's super fun. I still do that. I have one Strat, the older Fender, that has a Floyd on it. And man, I'd fire that thing up and just go nuts. My neighbors love it. Like during 4th of July, I'd play the Star Spangled Banner, open all the windows, and everybody's like looking out. What is he doing?
There is no substitute, you know.
It's super fun, super fun.
Because most of us aren't Jimi Hendrix, and we need a locking nut to do that stuff, or we will sound really, really bad when we play the guitar again.
Totally. I'm so glad you're on the show with some of the other guys. Well, we've done Greg Gilmore, we did the Gunner, we did Paul Euler, and
Nick Pollock.
But with you today, we're going to talk guitars.
And we're surrounded by them, so
there's a few in here.
I'm in a happy place. That's good.
So we met in West Seattle. Those were tumultuous times. It was the 80s. We were hanging on Alki Beach, going to house parties. But what I want to know, and the premise, the start of the show and the end of it is then and now. So when you were a kid growing up, and I ask everybody this question, when did you first realize that you kind of liked music? Was it listening to your parents' records or?
So long ago that I can't even remember. Yeah, my parents were really into Beatles, Beach Boys, Cream, later Zeppelin, all the 60s stuff, had a great record collection. My dad isn't an audiophile, so like I remember being a little bitty kid, and he had these giant tannoy speakers that were probably 4 feet tall, which when I
remember those.
They were expensive tannoys.
Yeah.
And when I was like, a wee little tot, they looked like the amps on the cover of Rust Never Sleeps by Neil Young, right? If you ever seen. And, so I'd be sitting there and my dad would be cranking Zeppelin 2 or something. So very early on, my mother told me that when the Beach Boys' Wild Honey came out, I hounded them to play it over and over again to the point that a little kid can do and drive parents insane. Even if they like the record, by the time the kid is done asking to hear it again, they probably don't anymore.
Banging on pots and pans. My mom made us cardboard guitars, and we would lip sync to like Sugarloaf, and so which was kind of my first little thing. Like, oh, I like guitar. When did you figure out that you like guitar?
Early on.
How old were you?
I was always, probably 7 or 8, but I didn't start playing until 7th grade when I was like 12.
Yeah.
I got into school. Also, I was really little as a kid. So a guitar was like just too big for me to do anything with.
Sure.
I had little bitty hands and stuff. But I used to lip sync. I remember definitely standing in front of the tannoys, jamming out on a tennis racket or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretending I was Jimmy Page. So the tennis racket would have been down here.
Oh, hell yeah.
In 7th grade, so we lived in Seattle and then moved to Garden Grove, California at the end of my 6th grade year. And I started 7th grade at Bell Junior High School and took Introduction to Guitar. So Tom Bromling, our instructor, told us we could learn all those stupid bar chords and pentatonic scales on our own time and taught us how to play folk-style guitar and finger pick badly, which I was never good at. I think I was
Me neither. I'm horrible.
I was like a B- student at guitar, but I was really motivated and, got focused pretty early. And, probably didn't start playing in bands in high school till I was 14 or 15, maybe, something like that.
So seventh grade, it's actually when I took a piano class, and they offered an entry level guitar class, and for the guitar class, they had these old beat up nylon string guitars. Everybody had one
With a neck this big.
with yeah, like fucking 2x4. Like you can't, just ridiculous. At some point, almost near the end of that year, I got a decent acoustic steel string, and I brought it in. And my guitar teacher, Mr. Hans, he was like, "Well, you can't play that steel string. That's kind of rock." And I was like, "Yeah, fuck this nylon string shit."
Yeah.
He was kind of like real long fingernails, and
Yeah. The
finger
whole yes,
picker.
yes. You have to trim. You have to keep these nails grown out. These trimmed. Very much classical technique thing.
Yeah, and I hated playing that nylon string guitar. He had me go and do a teachers conference at some restaurant in West Seattle, and that's the first time I ever played in front of anybody. And I'm playing this massive 2x4 neck nylon string guitar, and I'm thinking I should have brought my guitar. That would have made it way better. We played Chicago's 25
25 or 64. Well, you probably played a version of it.
We did. I remember da 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 da,
Yeah.
da 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 da. But that was kind of my first thing. Tell me about your first time you ever played in front of people.
First time playing in front of people. Wow. I guess parties. So like, I
Shocking.
yeah, I know, right? So and also back then so I lived in Southern California until about halfway through my senior year, and then we moved back up here to Edmonds. In California, I was playing guitar, but not, I was surrounded by really good guitar players in Southern California at that point, right? So here I am, a 13-year-old kid, maybe 14. It's going, I'm just not making progress. So I picked up bass for a while and played with some guys, and that's where I sort of started learning stuff like all the songs off Unleashed in the East and Strangers in the Night by UFO.
Yeah.
And some cool, more newer metal shit.
Were you learning that stuff like we talked about with like Tommy Gunn, where we would sit at the phonograph and put it and learn that line, and it just
in my case
over and over again.
In my case, I was doing it off tapes. I had cassette tapes. I had bootlegged off of the radio.
Oh shit! Really?
So it's a little easier to rewind for short distances. But, low tech. We were by then. My mom was a single mom, so we didn't have much money. So I didn't have good equipment or anything like that. But I'm playing guitar, but not making progress like I thought I could. So I pick up bass, and then my younger brother's a year and a half younger than me, who is really the serious musician of the family and the natural.
Yeah.
And he was a first chair cellist, so he picked the bass up
wow.
and just promptly blew my ass off of it. Boom, gone. Okay, I guess I better go back to guitar now. Didn't pick up a bass for like probably 10 years more after that, because he's really good. He played with Jeff Tate from Queensryche and was at Bitter End with me, and is just super. You've seen my brother play.
Oh, he's
an amazing bass player.
He's super.
But
awesome,
when I was young and insecure and figured, well, I guess bass is the easy way out now. Had to get cracking. So I guess probably a house party somewhere or other, playing some sort of covers, maybe when I was 15 or 16, but I couldn't tell you exactly when or how. The first real gig I did, so Bitter End woodshedded for a long time. We wrote songs, played up at Harry Derringer, our drummer's basement in Linwood. Was going to the U. I would get on a bus every day and go all the way from the U District to Aurora Village, where Harry would pick me up in his van and take me the rest of the way because he didn't want to drive me all the way back and forth, and I don't blame him. I was doing that like 3-4 times a week. We were really dedicated.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't play out for a long time. Then Forced Entry gave us a gig at the Clearview Grange Hall, and we still didn't have a singer. We were a 3-piece instrumental band.
But we're going for it. We're going to rock.
We did it. And we were sort of more like proggy speed metal. They were more kind of what speed metal became. And, they packed the fuck out of the place. I mean, Forced had a huge draw then. And, and a fun crowd. And we rocked the crowd really good for not having vocals. We were still a 3-piece.
Yeah.
But we played too long, and Tony yelled at me afterward. He said,
Delicio?
Benjamin's. Tony Benjamin.
Tony Benjamin, yeah.
It's like, dude, if you want to play 45 minutes, headline your own fucking show. I didn't know. I was young.
Who knew?
No, I didn't.
Nobody.
Really. I really didn't know yet, because but that was my first real show. See, our first real show like 87, and then I'd done some house party stuff before then, but I didn't. I was really of a mind that I didn't want to play out till I was really ready, which was sort of the opposite of punk rock at the time, which is every punk rock band. And I was very not into punk early on. I was like, I wanted to be frickin' Richie Blackmore, or
everybody
Michael
did.
I didn't want to be. So I didn't want to play until I was good. But I think the punk rock ethos is actually right. You just go out and do it, and you'll get better,
Yeah.
And that's instead of waiting to be perfect. It's actually, I think punks got that one right. And then we all met in the middle. Oh, here's a story for you. So in about 9th grade, I believe, I got my ass kicked by all the punk rockers in Bell Junior High School for saying
Hey,
punk
when that
sucks.
happens.
In the quad. My poor brother had to just watch. It didn't hurt me too bad, but because at that point I just had no time for punk rock because I couldn't fucking play, and it was just not where my ethos was at. I was a little kid listening to Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Hendrix,
Serious guitar player.
Leslie West. That was my shit, when I was like 12, 13, 14. This was my parents' record collection, and punk just didn't do it for me. But then we all met in the middle.
Yeah.
And then there was crossover. That's some years later. But I think the punk thing of just put it out there, do it, go, play, don't wait, is actually totally smart and really a democratizing thing in music, and I think the best thing punk rock music was that, yes, anyone can do this, and if you want to do it, get out there and fucking do it,
Absolutely. One thing with any kind of music, when you first go and play a show or you get, go to play at a house party or something, and even if 1 or 2 people come up and go, that was cool, that gives you more confidence and makes you feel like, let's go play next Saturday night. That was fun as shit. It can only be one person that comes up and gives you some accolades, and you're just like, I want to rock. I can do this.
Or if it's someone you find sexually attractive that says that to you, then
let's not forget the ladies.
Or the guys, if that's your inclination,
Well, there you have it. At this point, we're going to take a quick little break for our sponsors, and we'll be back with Seattle's Sound Then and Now. So many of you know we film and record this podcast on Sunday mornings and afternoons. How do we like to start each episode, Dave?
Well, first I set up the cameras and then...
No. Before that.
Oh, well, with a cup of Joe?
Right. Not just any cup of Joe. We get ourselves a cup of coffee at Annie Irene's Coffee Shop, family-owned in Des Moines. I like to get a nice cup of coffee or maybe a little brekkie sandwich. How about you, Dave?
Cup of coffee, maybe some coffee cake. They do a coffee cake with Marion berries.
I like the one that has the brown sugar on top with the cinnamon, with a cube of butter on it.
Cube of butter.
Later in the day, they got a really cool ice cream that they also serve. Annie Irene's Coffee Shop, located downtown Des Moines, Marine View Drive, open daily. I go there every morning. Dave, whenever I call you, you're always working, whether it be on a film, your daily gig, writing a script, editing the pod.
There's always something to do, that's for sure.
I hear you. Between this pod, running my company, writing music, it could be tough to keep up with those little pesky household tasks,
right?
You
betcha.
Luckily, Des Moines Cleaners has your dry cleaning needs taken care of. Open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., closed on Sundays. I actually know the couple that own it. They're super sweet. You could take one task off your shoulders with the cleaners for all your dry cleaning and laundry needs. Des Moines, the Cleaners. Welcome back to Seattle Sound Then and Now. I'm with Mr. Matt Fox. Hey, buddy, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Owen.
We were just talking about who has the keg taps. Was it somebody's older brother?
Well, until I actually had keg taps before I turned 21.
We're waiting for in Lincoln Park at the Horseshoe Pits. Where are the keg taps?
Okay, so we Bitter End was going to play a party on Occidental in an underground kind of warehousey thing, and at this point, had just turned 21. Or was maybe, into my 21.
Oh, so you had the taps.
I not only had the taps, I went out and bought like 7 kegs. And this is right after they introduced the stickers. Because before that, they didn't have the stickers on the kegs. And then when you went and bought kegs, you had to sign off on the sticker.
How much
so the cops could figure out who the fuck to bust.
Weren't the kegs like $30 for a whole keg of beer?
I remember it not being a lot. I remember me and a friend of mine who was involved in certain entrepreneurial activities, fronted the money for the kegs and figured we were going to make a lot of money on the party. And it was like, I think the lovely Cheryl, who's off screen, might have been in the building because we played with her ex's band, Assault and Battery, that night. And if I recall correctly, it was a major rager, 400 people, something like that.
Yep.
And the cops showed up.
Oh, yeah.
And they busted in. And I'm down there sweating bullets because they walked all the way in, they cleared the party, and they got within one room of seeing the 7 kegs with my name on them, but didn't. I would have been in a skosh of trouble. They just wanted to break it up a party, and we kept the money anyway.
Well, there you have it.
Sorry. Sorry, folks. We didn't charge you that much. It was $3 or $4, which even by the standards of the day wasn't that much. So
No, those are good times. Those are the 80s for me were the original good old days, hanging at Alki and the house parties. We talked about that one party. I don't know if you went to it. Do you remember the Visqueen party we threw?
I don't remember that one, but the thing this brings up is there was kind of a transition, right? I'm class 84, you're 81.
Yep.
And there was at the time the teen dance hall ordinance that prevented all ages stuff in the city from happening kind of as I was getting active in music. And me and a lot of other people right around my age, like the Forced Entry crowd, all them, people would go and they would rent Musicians Hall and independently produce shows outside the city limits, right?
VFW halls and
VFW halls, Clearview Grange Hall, places like that.
maybe book a golf course banquet
Brook
hall.
Lake Hall down at Federal Way, I remember going
Yeah,
to shows
yeah.
at. And house parties. And then we all turned 21. And then our whole scene moved to like the Central, the Vogue in the late 80s. And then subsequently Off Ramp, Rock Candy, then Color Box. So once we all turned 21, our little version of the it was
tried
more a
to
thing of
start playing at
necessity
bars.
because we just couldn't go to bars. At least I couldn't. I looked my age and didn't have fake IDs. So I could not get in bars until I actually turned 21, which made me really sad when Michael Schenker played as Astor Park. Because when I lived in LA or Orange County, I was able to go to shows. I saw Metallica in like 1982 because I was a 15-year-old kid. I rode my bike to the Woodstock and they put a wristband on me saying no booze for the kid, but he could watch the show. And I get up here and I'm like,
I remember when Schenker played Astor Park. That was one of the first places we played. It was on Fifth Avenue. It was an old steakhouse that was owned by a guy that owned Ballard Firehouse, John Baptiste.
was it a Baptiste building? Yeah.
Yes.
It closed before I turned 21, so I never went to Astor Park. But
It's one of the first places that Mistrust ever played.
yeah, that tracks for me. Riot did the Restless Breed tour there. I was also really sad I couldn't go see Riot there. It was the perils of being under 21 in Seattle back then. You know, you just couldn't go to stuff.
Let's talk about shows real quick.
Okay, so Bitter End played with Overkill and someone else at Rock Candy, and they forced us. They forced us to play in front of 2 drum kits on the stage at fucking Rock Candy. So they made not just the headliner leave their kit up, but the second band. So we played on the floor at Rock Candy. We're probably one of the few bands to ever play the whole band on the floor at Rock Candy.
I never saw that before at Rock County.
No, it's because nobody did it, but we just said, fuck it, we'll play on the floor. Actually, the same thing happened to Zero Down, and we played on the floor at El Corazon, which they hadn't seen there either. Other dumb stuff, though, that was good dumb stuff. Oh, okay, I know. Zero Down played at Pain in the Grass, which to those of us who are old means awesome shows at the Seattle Center that were free, at the Mural Amphitheater that were fabulous. And now it means you're in a stupid fucking concrete parking lot at like White River Amphitheater or some shit. And I hate
Is
White
that
River.
what it is now?
Yeah. So we played Pain in the Grass. We were opening for Motley Crue. Zero Down's opening for Motley Crue. Some more people actually struggled to get all the way down to White River Amphitheater, right? And they didn't even let them in time for us to play. So our people are standing in line watching us through the chain link fence, having come all the way to Auburn to see us. And we're playing. And there's a great picture of this somewhere. A line of giant security meatheads in front of us on the stage with absolutely nobody there. It was a beautiful shot.
Well, they were paying them, so they had to do something.
Yeah, it was like, oh yeah. And our, by then, Zero Down crowd, this is going to be, it's maybe 10 years ago. So we're all still in our, I'm in my mid 50s now. We were in our mid 40s then. Most of our fans were not like young, rowdy people who were going to cause a lot of shit, right? They're all solid middle-aged working people at that point. It's just, oh my God. But we could barely see past them, because it was just like this line of beef.
They were your new fans for that gig.
It was hilarious. So those are 2 great moments in show stupidity for you.
Those are good stories. Here's a question for you. If you could then and or now be in any band, what band would it be?
Me and Gunnar and Jimmy Paulson were really the 3 guys they were looking at to be the second guitar player in Alice early on.
I remember Tom. I remember Jimmy Paulson, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it was
him.
me, Gunnar, and Paulson were really the top 3 candidates. And then Jerry decided, rightly, I'd say, that he probably had that covered.
I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, then and now. But I mean, also the question is, if you're joining a band then or now, now I'm a solid middle-class citizen with a good job that, I not really at this stage of my life willing to drop everything. So then it would be, probably should.
I want to say for you, since I know you so well, Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing with Thin Lizzy. Although now, again, that's a question of, maybe when Robbo got fired for cutting his hand on tour in a fight or some shit, that would have been granted. But I would have been like 9 years old or something, whatever it was. But so it's sort of an odd apples to oranges time juxtaposition there. Yeah, Thin Lizzy would have been a fun one to play in. I couldn't play keyboards, but being Paul Raymond to Michael Schenker wouldn't be bad.
I'm saying, oh my God.
I would just feel useless in a band with Michael Schenker. I'd just be standing there watching him going, you're so fucking.
I love me some Schenker.
You and I have had that in common for many years before Michael Schenker was well appreciated.
Correct. Which leads into, Matthew, let's talk guitars.
Guitars. We like them. I own a lot of them.
I know you do.
As I see you do.
We got a couple on board. What are your main go-to axes right now? I know that you've got several kick-ass Gibson Flying Vs. Tell
Don't
the
actually
folks.
have a Gibson Flying V. I have, and I don't play it much anymore. I have a Ibanez Lawsuit V, a 76.
Is that the wood grain one?
Yeah, it's the one. It's like a 58 style V. So like the first edition.
I thought it was a Gibson.
Well, they were.
Looks.
There's a reason they got sued.
It looks legit, right?
There's a reason.
And it plays legit, right?
Oh yeah, it's a great guitar. I didn't. The last time I really used that guitar a lot was when I was in Camaro Smith. And that was a fun band. I filled the 2003. I was sort of not really playing a lot at that point, and they needed someone to do a European tour. So the first time I went to Europe, I played 18 cities in 21 days or whatever it was. Those guys had Jeff Matz, who is now in High on Fire, had a super growly, mid-rangey, distorted bass tone, and Chris Johnson had a very mid-rangey, thick guitar tone. So the V was great because it was a super, really kind of a bright guitar, and it floated on top of all that. But I haven't played that one that much. Zero Down, my main guitar is a 1982 Dean V that I found at the Seattle Guitar Show. I bought it from Tommy of Tommy's Music in Everett.
What'd you get that for?
I paid $1,700 for it, and it's a custom.
I've been looking for one of those.
Yeah, it's an original 82. It was actually sent back to the Dean factory and has a Floyd installed, so it's still got like all the string holes from the original V-shaped tailpiece and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's signed on the headstock that it was hand built by Dean Zielinski himself.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and it's a tank. I call it. Most of my guitars get actual proper human names, but that one I mostly call the Squad Automatic Weapon because it's great. I'm a more substantial.
You just kind of you're always just reminding me of Ted Nugent for some reason. Like,
well, it's just because it's big. It's a giant guitar. I mean, it's when it's on you because it's like it's like an Explorer meets a V with a giant upside down V headstock, right? So it's a really long guitar, and it probably weighs like 11 pounds. So it's a tank, but the human name it wound up was Dewey from Stripes because it's Dewey Oxberger. But my friends call me the Ox. So
the Ox.
So that's the main Zero Down guitar. Sitting around the house, my main guitar probably. I have a really nice 2004 Les Paul Classic that I like a lot.
Nice.
I would use that as the backup guitar at Zero Down. But Lenny Burnett, after years of saying he didn't like Les Pauls, picked that one up and discovered the magic of the right Les Paul.
Correct.
Because with Les Pauls, it's all about the necks. Like I have my first good guitar was an 85 Custom, and that thing has like the 50s neck, which I don't like, right? The 50s neck is giant.
Yeah.
But that 60s slim taper neck, you can get around on it.
It's bitching.
Right now, sitting in my living room is my 1990 SG that I play a lot. Acoustics, my main acoustic now is a 2004 Martin D41.
Nice.
I have a D28. I have a 72 Strat that I pull out every so often. I have my 87 Strat that's being worked on right now. That one actually gets in a lot of my bands sort of where a single coil guitar is appropriate. I like it because it's just reliable and I don't have to worry, it's not that valuable. So, if I drop it or something happens to it, unlike my 72, which is like an investment freaking guitar now,
A third of the guitars in my house have broken necks, and I fixed them all with Elmer's glue. I went and got some wood clamps. They just seem to fall over every now and then. And you're like, fuck.
Don't buy SGs.
Oh, no.
SGs, they have exploding headstocks.
No, and anytime I ever put an SG on it, it just went like this. Quack.
Yeah,
Like
some have neck dives, some don't. I've got a 91 SG Junior that's freaking amazing. It's a great guitar. And it doesn't have neck dive, and it hasn't been broken. But I'm super careful. I use the right kind of guitar stands. Okay, so here's a bad story. So Jeff Carroll from Dr. Unknown, it's a band I joined. I was in Bitter End and Dr. Unknown at the same time for a while. And then Bitter End, we've been doing it by the time we broke up, whatever it was, almost 7 years. We were, Bitter End was formed at a time me and my brother were much younger and into a different kind of thing. And we just I wanted to do more a hard rock thing. He probably wanted to be in Living Color or something like that, or just play more advanced stuff. So we just, it stopped being fun. So I was in both bands for a while, then did Dr. Unknown. Jeff Carroll, amazing singer, guitar player, wound up writing half the songs. I was in bands with him for a number of years after. Jeff Tate from Queensryche managed us for a while. it didn't work out. So when we broke up, Jeff Tate just grabbed Jeff Carroll and half of our songs and did his solo record with my brother and Evan Schiller.
Really?
Yeah, that's half
I
of
didn't
that
know that.
Dinsdale set.
Huh.
But very much rearranged to be very gothy and voguey and not that guitar heavy,
Right.
which is what they wanted to do, and that's cool. But Jeff Carroll had a very nice early, must have been a 1990 Les Paul Classic when the Classics first came out,
Yep.
gold top, great guitar. And we're backstage, and I watched someone trip over the cable, and I watched it go over. And it was one of those headstock breaks that was never the same after. If you get like a twisting, splintery headstock break, clean breaks you could fix, but there are certain kinds of headstock breaks the guitar is just not the same after.
Yeah.
I just went, oh, fuck. Put it in the case, handed him my Les Paul Custom and said, Jeff, you don't even want to look.
Don't
You're playing this guitar tonight.
even look at it.
Don't even look at it. But that one was never the same after it broke.
I've got a sidebar note here for you. When we were talking on the phone and getting you scheduled for the show, first word you said.
Not the first, but one of the first. So my parents, as I said before, kind of were into rock, and we moved. I was born in New York, and then we moved to. My dad went from whatever he was doing. He became the bookstore manager at Stanford, so we lived in Palo Alto. And I am told that I was a babe in arms at a Jefferson Airplane show. And one of my first words, not my very first word, but one of my first words was feedback when I heard feedback, because clearly my dad was explaining to me, so Matt, that's feedback. You know,
As you're holding your ears going, I love this.
yeah, pretty much. And they wonder why I turned out the way I did. It's all their fault.
Blame somebody.
Yeah, well,
Lame.
I thank them.
We're going to take a quick little sponsor break, and we'll be back with Seattle's Sound Then and Now. You know, another family-owned business I love to go to. That's where I met you, Dave.
Well, that doesn't sound good, does it?
Located at Burien at 5 Quarters Plaza off First Avenue, Burien Liquor and Wine is a family-owned and operated with a small, tight-knit staff who, I know everybody that works there, you guys are awesome, and the largest selection of wines and spirits that you'll find west of I-5. Deals all day, and they even display out-the-door pricing. Open 7 days a week from morning to night. Burien Liquor and Wine has your adult beverage needs taken care of.
I go there every morning.
Dave, you own a home, right?
I do, a townhome, but yeah.
Being a homeowner has its perks, but also it's a lot of work.
Oh, for sure. Loads of stuff I didn't think about. Like one of my showers is leaking into the wall and floor. Part of my deck is starting to give out.
You know, there's always something that needs fixing, or maybe you want to upgrade in the master bathroom, redo your deck, have an island put into your kitchen with a hood over it.
Don't even get me started with the kitchen. We need a total overhaul with that, and I have no idea where to start.
You know, there are professionals who can help design and develop that for you, like Design Develop, local construction company that specializes in just that, designing and developing all those upgrades in your home to make it your home. Design, develop for all your construction needs. Okay, so we've done the then and we're moving up into now. What bands are you playing in right now?
So right now, Zero Down's doing some reunion shows.
I saw that.
Other one that,
Good for you guys.
and the only other thing I'm doing regularly now is a fun little thing called the Disco Cowboys, which is sort of some of the guys I was in Heartwood with, and basically it's country songs with it's actually mostly disco songs with country arrangements. So you take a disco song, put the country oompa beat to it, and it's fun. I play mostly bass in that, although John Jetto Pagano.
So like you put a mariachi beat behind it?
Well, just sort of not so much that. but
Polka?
Yeah.
Are we talking metal polka?
Polka and country are the same, dude. Dum 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 dum. The bass in country in polka is about that far apart. And oompa and mariachi music. But it's fun, and we play occasionally.
Guitar rigs that you're playing on right now. What?
When I play guitar in the Disco Cowboys, I usually use my 87 American Standard Strat through a 1974 Fender Super Reverb.
Bitchin'.
Yeah, I had for years. I was in an abusive relationship with a 68 Twin for years. This is inside
Did you say
baseball.
twins? Cheryl's looking at us again.
No,
What?
A Fender Twin Reverb, which is
An
the
amp.
most horrible, unforgiving, if you're a really clean picker and you're really perfect and you're a country guy, that's the amp for you.
Oh, they're killer.
But they have no sag, no sustain. They don't break up at all.
Nope.
And
you're out there naked.
Yeah,
You better be fucking
it's
nailing
pretty
it.
agonizing. The Super has that Fender clean and that sparkle and stuff, but you can actually do things with it. So I finally, after years, I bought the Super and then sold the Twin to a friend of mine. And it's a great amp for what it is, but it's just not the amp for me. I like a little more gain. And then zero down, my rig will be normally I play I should know this off the top of my head. 1984 Marshall JCM 800 2204, which is the 50-watt single, basically single channel vertical inputs. So first gen of the JCM 800. And I will also at that gig, because it's in a big room, and I play that through a 70s reissue cab. And at that gig, I will probably also play my 87 JCM 800 combo because it's going to be at El Corazon, and if I can bring two amps, I love to, just because.
Who doesn't run two half stack stereo?
Yeah, it's basically so it's noise. So that'll be the zero down rig. Speaking of Marshalls, you sold me my first Marshall.
I was just going to
you
ask
don't remember
you.
this.
I don't.
Somewhere in 1987, I was playing. Originally, I had a 1972 Ampeg V4, which is the one with the big metal knobs. Tank of an amp, but not gainy. I used to use a Boss heavy metal distortion. My first bitter end demo, which Morris Gategno produced.
Morris.
That's an old name for you.
Badass
Morris
guitar
from Upper
player.
Echelon.
Yeah.
And a longtime amp repairman after it.
Yes.
And I got a pretty decent tone with it, but I wanted a Marshall, and I forget what it was. So I wound up selling that head, and what you'd get for an Ampeg V4 then was $150. And I believe I came up with the other $250 to buy a Marshall JCM 800 100-watt from you that had the 6550s in it. So I never loved that amp. It was still better than the Ampeg.
What year was that?
That was 87, I think, that I bought that off.
You know what? Now that I think about it,
I think you had two at the time, and you sold.
I did, and the one that I sold you was the one my girlfriend Erin Valdez went to American Music and bought me, and she put it on her credit card. She said, "All you got to do is make the payments."
I guess you finally did when you sold it to me. Then maybe
I don't think that even happened.
Maybe
I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. And
maybe
she was really
sorry, Erin.
upset with me. Sorry, Erin.
But yes, you sold me my first Marshall long, long ago. And actually, that 100-watt, the 50-watt Marshall is one of the things that. So when I was in Dr. Unknown, old timer Seattle people will remember something called the Pang Warehouse Fire, which Dr. Unknown, our bass player, knew Martin Pang, who was the stepson of Harry and Mary Pang, who ran Pang's Frozen Foods.
That's right.
Which was a common supermarket, one of the first supermarket frozen Asian food things, I think, in America.
Down in
Chinatown. And since our old bass player, Derek Peace, knew Martin, we rehearsed in the spare room in their warehouse. And I came to rehearsal one day, and the building was on fire.
Oh, shit.
Well, it's a really terrible story because ultimately 4 firefighters died in that fire.
That was a big ass fire.
Big deal.
People died. It was not cool.
He fled to Brazil. It was on America's Most Wanted.
They finally picked him up.
Extradited him. So I got there in time, and I see smoke coming out of the building. So feel the door, go in the building, start grabbing gear out. And one of the things I grabbed was that Marshall head, my Les Paul, my SG, all of which I still play. And then the smoke level kept dropping. And then pretty soon I'm crawling in the building looking for
Leave the cabinets.
Jeff Carroll's Les Paul. I lost a nice high watt cabinet in that fire, but I got out in one piece, so I have nothing to complain about.
Thank God.
I start crawling in the building looking for the Les Paul, and I'm like, fuck this.
I need to get
got out of the building, and the moment I get out of the building, the fire breaches the wall, and all of a sudden all the electrical connections start sparking and shit. I'm like, fuck.
That's
back
goddamn
my
scary.
78 LTD2, which is half loaded, and the trunk lid's like flapping as I back up this dirt driveway. Almost hit the firefighters first pulling in, and I get it parked on the street. And before they close the scene, I sort of run around on Dearborn, run down the hill, grab the other gear I'd left on the ground, and I'm still playing that 50-watt head that came out of that fire. So
great story. Unfortunate situation.
Terrible.
But glad that you didn't get compromised by that.
I'm glad I realized I was being a dumbass going back in the fucking building.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean,
yeah, and
those are like your kids.
At the time, it just the gravity of the situation really didn't, didn't quite sink in until I start seeing sparks coming off the building. I'm like, okay, that was bad.
I got to tell you, this has been an enjoyable pod, and I thank you and Cheryl for coming over and taking time with us today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks to everybody out there who gives a darn about us old fart musicians, and we're all trying. Some of us are still at it, and one nice thing about living in Seattle, it's kind of like Austin. They let old farts play shows, provided their old fart friends come and buy a few beers.
Oh yeah,
you go to LA or places like that, and old rock guys, good luck finding a gig. So that's I think a great thing about Seattle. And
well, LA's always been a silly ass town, if you ask me.
I live there, and you'll get little argument from me on that point.
Well, kids, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time. And again, thanks to Matt Fox for giving and sharing all these fun stories about guitars and the times of our lives. This is Seattle Sound. Then and now, we're out. Have a great week, everybody.